Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for coming back from lunch break. I know it's hard to kind of tear yourself out of the demo booths and the food, but thanks for coming back. I get to come back to the stage to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which is our product. Those of you who work at Dataiku know that I am, the biggest fan of our product. My whole job is basically telling you all how much I love our product. So much so that I dressed as our product today. So I do know that there are some users among you. So who can tell me, as I realized on the way over here, what this is? What element is this in Dataiku? It's a recipe. Nobody knows? Okay, we're all going to go to the website. We're going to watch the videos. This is the join recipe. Okay, so you're all nerds now. We're all aligned. I want to talk to you about what's new, what's coming. A tear came to my eye when the gentleman in the last panel talked about product releases, because that's my lifeblood. But before we talk about what's new, what our roadmap holds, I do want to step back, because I know a lot of you aren't maybe as familiar with Dataiku. So you've heard us say today that we're the universal AI platform. Okay, what does universal mean? Really 4 dimensions. First, it's your people. So Dataiku isn't just for hardcore data scientists. It's not just for your ML engineers. And it's not just for business people who want to point and click. It's for all those people and everyone on the spectrum between those two. So we meet users where they are so that they can use the tooling that they feel the most comfortable with, and they're not siloed. The power of being all in one place, regardless of our technical skill set, is really what makes Dataiku so valuable. Second is universal data. We don't care where your data lives, which cloud it's in, Snowflake, Databricks, what your stack looks like. We know you have data in flat files, you have it in your CRM, you have it in your cloud storage, on-prem, wherever. That's fine, we'll connect to it. Governance. Governance is built in with the visual flow and also with our dedicated module for AI governance, which is really about giving that control tower, that oversight into all the different activities that the different pockets of people doing data work are working on and making sure that they're standardized. And finally, the technology. You might have heard us say that we are aggressively agnostic, and that has always been the case. From when we were talking about Hadoop to the rise of Spark and now Gen AI, we know that the hottest technologies today are not going to be the best and greatest what's tomorrow. And we don't want you to have to tear down everything and have your data workers relearn everything just because their stack changes. So these are very important values of our product. So let's talk about what we're doing this year and into next year. We're really focused on 3 dimensions for our roadmap. The first is allowing you all to build enterprise-grade Gen AI. Okay, no surprise. We're going to talk more about that, and it's not just about doing it fast, but also doing it safely. Next, democratization and acceleration. So this is really about reaching new types of people and also allowing everyone to just go faster, to waste less time. And this isn't just Gen AI. This is traditional analytics. This is your ETL pipelines, mundane reporting, ML, you name it. And finally, we're making sure that you have the right frameworks and systems in place for governance and for ops, because nothing's good if you can't get it into production and maintain its health and quality over time. So we're going to start with Gen AI. What role does Dataiku have to play? We talked about this morning, and when I was talking about that architecture, we opened up the box of an LLM-powered application, and we saw that you have all these components on the left. You have LLMs, either hosted services or open source that you host yourself. You've got vector stores, accelerated computing. You're connecting to new chips, new GPUs, things like that. And you use prompts. You build knowledge banks. You use tools to build those agents. And ultimately, those apps get served to your end users either as a standalone application or embedded in something that you already have. Okay, pretty simple. Now, all of that has to go into production. And here's where things get a little rocky. It's okay to do all of that for 2 or 5, but when you have 20 or 50, if you don't have that second handoff to the ops side pretty nailed down, it can get out of hand. So when we think about the LLM capabilities within Dataiku, we'll start with the LLM mesh, which I spoke about this morning, or not this morning, a couple hours ago. You heard about that architecture paradigm, and its goal is to decouple that application layer from the services layer, to give you that freedom of choice so that when Llama 4 comes out and whatever's next from Mixtral comes out, you can replace what you've got without missing a beat. We want to break down those hard-coded dependencies. Now, none of this matters unless people are actually building apps. And it's not that often that a regular person has an AI developer skill set. So we're giving a lot of tooling, not just for coders, who of course can open a notebook in Dataiku or a Python recipe and do whatever they want, but we also have those no-code tools. You saw Cassie and Kirsten show you Prompt Studios. That's no-code prompt engineering. We have no-code RAG applications for conversational chat apps, Dataiku Answers, which we'll talk about in a minute. And we have a suite of commodity NLP tasks. The pink recipes, if you know Dataiku, those are things like sentiment analysis, summarization, text classification, topic detection. Very standard NLP use cases that I could have been standing up here 10 years ago. We're talking about a whole different set of tools. So next is the safety layer. These are your guardrails. You might be thinking, well, I don't really want hundreds of people building apps because that sounds pretty scary. What's going to keep them from sharing sensitive data? What's going to keep them from asking prompts things they shouldn't have? And this is where guard services comes in. So I'm going to dive into this layer in just a moment to tell you more about safety guard, quality guard, cost guard. And finally, we have the governance over to the side, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've added to our governance suite to help you get ready for the regulations that have started over in Europe and are very important for our multinational companies and the ones that are going to be happening here in the US, in the coming years. So let's start with the guard services. These are capabilities that are available today on top of our standard LLM mesh offerings. And you can talk to your account execs, your customer success managers about these services, but they allow you to apply enterprise-grade guardrails. And so if you think about those federated services I talked about during the first presentation I made, Cost Guard allows you to have very detailed logs of every query and response. And what that means is that we can monitor the cost, and we have pre-built dashboards that show you where your dollars are going by user, by team, by application, by project, any way you want to slice and dice it. You have full traceability with those audit logs. And what we're doing in the future is we're going to actually build in constraints. So if you exceed X dollars, it's going to stop you. There's going to be flags in place so that you can do really budget-based LLM work and usage tracking. We also have caching. So if you think about people who maybe have open source models being downloaded in 7 or 8 different places, you can see how caching that in one place is really going to keep you from hosting a lot of that storage. And if you have 100 people asking the chatbot the same basic thing all the time, let's cache that response, better latency, and it's free. Okay, so Safeguard are those guardrails. These are things that help you keep the company safe. So in that architecture where somebody asks a question, before it goes to the model, we're going to check it, if you want, for PII, for personally identifiable information. We're going to check it for forbidden terms, for toxic content. We're going to, run it through a model that checks, is this a prompt injection attempt? Is this an attempt at jailbreak? And so for those of you who don't know what jailbreak is, it's a malicious type of prompt injection that attempts to override an LLM's desired behavior, the behavior that's supposed to happen with an LLM. You try to get behind it and get unauthorized access to information or results that it's not supposed to give you. So there are models that are specialized to look for that. We can put that gate in immediately. Now, once you find it, you have to do something. So if you find PII, what do you want to do? You want to redact it and then send the query? Do you want to block the query? Do you want to alert an admin? These are all things you can configure. And then we have Quality Guard. And this is some of our newer stuff. I'm very excited. Literally any day now, we're going to be releasing Dataiku 13.2. And one of the things that we're kind of rolling out with this is LLM evaluation, which seems super boring if you're not in our space. But lucky for me, you all are. And so what this means is that when you type something into Bard or ChatGPT, and you're like, that's a really good response, I will use that. You've got this finger in the air type of evaluation. And that works if you're evaluating a chatbot and you look at things and you're like, that's pretty good. But pretty good subjective evaluation does not really scale when you have things that do millions of transactions. You need metrics. You need KPIs. And there are specific metrics for Gen AI that are not AUC, and they're not R-squared, and they're completely different types of metrics. So in the Women in Data Science panel this morning, we talked about LLM as a judge and RAGAS and these techniques that we use in proxy of human evaluation. And we also offer statistical NLP-based techniques like Rouge or Blur or BERT score for things like summarization and translation. So this is a whole new area. It's really interesting. And the good news is if you use the evaluation recipe in Dataiku for your regular ML models, the experience is the same. Every time your model runs, we're going to track that. So not only can you compare during the design phase what model is working, what AI system is working the best, you can also kind of have that going all the time so that you get an alert when your system begins to degrade. And this is how we're going to harden and industrialize LLM ops. There's also fine-tuning, which we kind of wrap into this quality bucket because that's another advanced way that you can more finely tailor a model's response to your specific use case. So you can fine-tune models from Azure OpenAI or OpenAI, Amazon Bedrock, Hugging Face, and the model that we create that's yours, that's specific to your business, is stored and registered in your LLM mesh, so we can apply all those safety guardrails. That's the beauty of it. There's no shadow AI with fine-tuned models living in random places. Okay, so Dataiku answers. If you just watched the Gen AI Jam that Kirsten and Cassie did, what a fun demo, first of all. And you saw them ask a chatbot, what are the sales? What are the tweets? Which beers are trending? And that was all done in Dataiku Answers, which is kind of an off-the-shelf web app that does the retrieval augmented generation workflow or allows you to query your data sets. So what we've done is we have these pre-built components. We have the front end, because people still don't have front-end developers. I mean, that's one thing that's changed, is nobody has the guy who can code the front end. We give you the front end. You can customize it. And you can connect it to whatever LLM you want, whichever vector store you want. You point it to the data sets you want it to query, or the knowledge bank of specific documents that are internal to you, like policy docs, HR docs, legal contracts, these things that are not part of the training corpus of ChatGPT or GPT. So we already have hundreds of customers who have implemented Dataiku Answers, and some of them have thousands of users hitting these concurrently. So this is a very scalable solution. The LLM registry is coming soon. I would say in Q4, we're going to be kind of releasing this, and it seems almost like a foregone conclusion. But when I think about how all these different models have different terms of service, and your terms of service for your company will vary from somebody else's. And so having a way for not just the IT team who implemented the model, but also the risk and the legal and the compliance teams to have a catalog of which models have we approved for what purposes. Which teams are allowed to use this? Which security groups should have access to this? What are our terms of service? This allows you to put all that in one place so that you can kind of do that governance mapping to make sure that people are compliant with the rules that you've set in place for your company. So that's Gen AI. We're also still focusing on democratization and acceleration for everyone. And this is always something that's a big part of Dataiku's work. That's why we have visual recipes that even, as Cassie said, our data scientists use because they're just faster. It's not that they can't code it, it's just faster to do a join, a multi-table join visually than to code every single field. So let's dig into a couple things. One is new assistants for you. These are just built into the platform. So if you're doing data prep and you cannot remember what the formula is for something, or you don't know which processor you should use to parse this date and extract the date component, whatever, just tell it what you want it to do. It's going to put the steps in there for you, and then you can alter it if you like. So as usual, full control, you can modify, but we kind of do the first heavy lift for you. We do the same with code assistants that are available in your local IDEs that you might use in Code Studios or in notebooks. We have, your side-by-side copilot, your assistant to help you debug, to help you document code, comment it. And then I mentioned earlier, documentation is very rarely a favorite task. And so AI Explain is a way to investigate a project that somebody sends you, and you're looking at the flow and you have no idea what's going on. And maybe they haven't done the work of putting in the description on the home page or in the wiki. You can just say, what is this flow about? What's the flow about? What's this flow zone do? And it's going to go in and explain the transformations to you and the data it uses in plain English. So one of the other things that Cassie and Kirsten show was Dataiku Stories. This one's coming out again in Q4. And we're very excited about this because it's a whole new segment. It's a whole new part of the race of the life cycle. Like 95% of what we do gets presented to somebody in a deck. Not me least of all, right? I'm in a deck. So you use slides to present your findings to leadership, to your stakeholders. How can we make it easier for people to not have to repeat the same deck month after month, quarter after quarter, refresh it because something changed? It's a super pain. And so Dataiku Stories dynamically connects you to live data, so it refreshes automatically. And now we've enhanced it with all these cool assistants that allow you to build it using Gen AI so that you don't waste a lot of time kind of pulling the data and wrangling it into shape. You can, of course, change the bar chart, change the color, change the formatting. You can also ask the app to do that for you. And this is the final mile. You do your presentation from here. This is your slide deck. Finally, let's talk about ops and AI governance. So we're going to say XOps. I think Gartner has adopted this term, but what it really means is a convergence of traditional data ops, ML ops, and now LLM ops. Sometimes people put FinOps in there also. But what we mean by that is that any kind of data product has to be maintained over time. And we are trying to reduce friction in that process and bring together kind of the different teams in IT who often are involved in that and make the handoff between data science and the IT operations smoother. And what we've been focusing a lot, I think, on the last maybe 6 to 8 months is interoperability. So we recognize that you have a very heterogeneous data science stack. You're all on different clouds, but you're all maybe using different data science tools. So some of you have coders that are working in ML Flow. You're coding everything. You may have folks in Dataiku or another tool like SageMaker that's kind of in between. And we want you to be able to build models wherever and also deploy them wherever, but still have Dataiku as that single pane of glass as the watchtower to be able to observe them all, check their health, explain them, document, govern them. So what we've been able to do is bring in models via MLflow integrations, Databricks integrations, to have objects come into Dataiku as foreign models, and again, explain them, govern them, and so forth. Or build using AutoML, as Kirsten was talking about, and then ship them out into Vertex AI or into Azure ML, because maybe that's where you've standardized your actual deployment platform. That's fine too. We'll still use Dataiku unified monitoring to watch them all over time, and to have those sign-offs on gates for deployments and things like that, so we make sure that V2 has had the same level of scrutiny as V1 did. So ecosystem's big for us, as is our govern module. I mentioned this earlier. This is really dedicated, and it's for enterprises who have pockets of data workers, and they're not all following the same standard workflow. They're not maybe getting responsible AI checks. Is anyone checking for bias? is anyone checking for data privacy violations? These are things that you can put into your workflows as part of a standardized thing. And what we've done now is added a blueprint specific for EU AI Act readiness. So this was written into force August 1st of this year. Companies have like 2 years to sort of get ready. And then the fines for violating compliance on EU AI Act can be up to 35 million euros or up to 7% of your global throughput. It's a big number if you violate these rules. So we have a work in progress template that goes through every tenet of this act and tries to say practically what does that mean for a team that has to check the boxes. So this is already built in. It's free. It's available with our Govern module. This is a great step for Gen AI governance. So I've filled your brains. It's a lot of stuff on product. All of this is available online on our website or on YouTube. So don't feel like you had to memorize this, but hopefully you've gotten a good overview of what we're doing in Gen AI, what we're doing to help accelerate and democratize all types of data work, and the ops and governance frameworks that are going to help you do it safely. I'll leave you with this. If you're a Dataiku customer and you didn't know about some of the features I just talked about, I encourage you to go visit my friends over in the demo booth. They can show it to you. They know a lot more than I do about how it works. And please consider joining us for product days. So this is something that my team is hosting the second week of October. It's 4 half days, kind of morning East Coast time, so like 8 to 12 for 4 days. And you can register for one session, or you can register for all 30. So pop in, pop out. Everything will be available on demand, and we cover every product session you can imagine. Plus, we have speakers from partners, from customers who are talking about real-world use cases. Would love to see you there, and I guess that's it for me. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day.